everyone. Welcome to Morning Laziness. This is Nilima KS, and today we are bringing to you an interview session with Ms. Kalpashree Gupta. Morning Laziness is an online magazine dedicated to women. It showcases various articles, personal life stories, and interview sessions on different matters concerning women. And today, our interviewee, Ms. Kalpashree Gupta, happens to be the founder of Knekxt Group as well as a coach and consultant. So let us welcome our interviewee. Hello, Ms. Kalpa.
Hi, Nilima. Thank you for having me. How are you?
How are you? Oh, I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing lovely. It's a beautiful sunny morning here in Phoenix.
Great. Well, since you're on board with morning listeners, so what is your morning mood?
Morning mood right now, I'm feeling very jubilant, grateful, and finding a lot of grace from people.
Great. And quite recently, Morning Laziness has started our very own NFT collection called Women in Metaverse. So, which is your favorite meta character?
Oh, with no doubt, like let's go traveling. I love travel. So, I saw a few avatars, particularly the waiting for the flight. That's my favorite NFT.
That sounds, that sounds great. Well, so how are you coping up with the pandemic lately?
Um, I think adapt with change very well. I wouldn't say that I adapted with pandemic very well, but I think the mindset of very early on that we are in a long endemic, I think has helped me well. And most recently, I was able to go and visit my family. Most of my family is in India after 2.5 years this year. So that feels like a blessing that, I feel privileged. I feel blessed that I have so many people in my life and they are all doing fine despite a lot of the loss that we've encountered. That's not lost on me. Um, um, but I think a lot of the coping in pandemic has been really going deep and having my own set of rituals and constantly kind of reminding how blessed we are to be having each day that we are alive, right? So I think that's just helping me personally.
Right, and indeed, pandemic created a huge barrier to travel back to home country and meet your loved ones. And especially in my case, it has been almost like 2 years since I've been back to India. So I miss my home country, and has been the situation for many as well, I hope. Well, gradually we are all, adapting with this pandemic, and slowly the travel bans are being taken off. So yeah, we can think about a good future. Right. Well, so you are a coach and consultant. So why did you choose this particular career path?
Wow. Where should I start? So I think naturally I've been a very curious person. Some of my values are curiosity, power, courage, connecting with people, right, and compassion. And over the years, I have had for the lack of a better word, a generalist career. I started in research and consulting, and then part of my career was a product manager. And the last 7 or 8 years, more over the last decade, I've been in different product roles. So as I was, and all of those had been a curiosity to create more curiosity and desire to have more impact and have financial freedom as well. Because through money, you can also have a lot of other impact for the areas that you care about. And right now, I'm a coach and consultant, and I started my own kind of business more in the consulting space because I saw an opportunity for a lot of the small to mid-sized companies who traditionally may not have the resources as large firms, but really product management is an evolving area. And end of the day, you are engaging and reaching out to your customers through mobile phones or a form factor. And you do need that strategic thinking and how can, that scrappy mindset as a product manager, like all of those things are coming very handy to help some of the small and medium-sized companies. And besides that, I believe in my journey, like, in your midlife, I've had midlife awakening, if you will, where I'm taking a lot of my early childhood, my career, and all of those learnings to help have other people. So I'm also in the middle of launching, which we'll talk a little bit later, to help young children and abused women. Right. So that's kind of where I am in the journey right now.
That sounds great. Well, so what inspired you to start Next Group?
Yeah. So I think it is. About 3 years ago, I quit my job. I was riding the corporate ladder, but somehow I felt like the script that I had for me, I had envisioned wasn't matching the reality, right? I was seeking deeper connection, and I was wondering what's next for me. So that's when I created Knekxt, which starts from my name K and next, and also the word like connection, right? So I say it as connect, with a desire to seek connection with, say, self, connect with others, particularly those in my life more deeply, and then also be able to help other people that might be able to, struggling with the same thing. And I didn't know, like, honestly, at the time when I created what I was going to do, and that has become a lot more clear in the last 3 or 4 years, right? So really, but the mission was very clear. I wanted to help uh, create greater wealth for that can go into women's and children's causes. And particularly, I have a vision to create a fund in 4 to 5 years for women entrepreneurs. So a lot of the work that I'm doing is also going towards that.
Right. You sound like a truly socially responsible entrepreneur who also wants to dedicate the profit towards doing something good or charitable for, again, as you mentioned, for the coming women entrepreneurs. Right. So, what are the key services you deliver through Knekxt?
Sure. So one of the key services, like I mentioned, is consulting to small to mid-sized companies, and this could be usually companies north of 3 or 5 million, 3 to 5 million kind of in revenue, where they are looking to scale their products. Right, they definitely have a little bit of a product market fit. Otherwise, they wouldn't, and they have proved their value because they are generating revenue, but then they need a little bit of a bump strategic thinking, and to bring me as sometimes as the fractional chief product officer who can actually set the strategy and then also do a lot of hands-on work given my experience. So I think that's where that service is there. And then more so though, as I'm quickly pivoting to more a mastermind for leaders, particularly, that's a service that I plan to launch, which is a mastermind for women or people of color who might be in senior kind of executive roles, although they are really experienced and really successful in their jobs, but they might be feeling disconnected because of childhood trauma. So I am trying to bring, create a mastermind where such we can create the space to have some of these tough conversations so that our future generations can have easy life, dealing with personal trauma that they might have had.
Right. Well, if you had noticed, like during the pandemic, many companies had faced huge losses, and especially the stock market had been a huge victim, and now a survivor of the pandemic, with the market shares plunging and so on, so forth. Well, so as a coach and consultant, what are some steps that you would recommend to advise to boost the business strategies and help them recover from this crisis?
Absolutely. My number one advice is to focus, right? Focus meaning in terms of particularly smaller companies. You don't have as much resources to throw money and everything and spray and pray, what I call. Like, so you really need to analyze, look at where your revenues are coming, who are your existing customers, and see what their needs are. It's easier to overserve your existing customer than to go and find a brand new market and areas where you have no experience. Unless, of course, you get lucky, right? And people do get lucky, but we are not talking luck, right? We are also talking a lot of like reaching out and connecting. So start with looking at what works and try to see, how you can replicate. And many a times it's really getting on those phone calls with your customers and see what their pain points are. What are they struggling? Because you know what? I really firmly believe when you help your customers grow, you also grow along with that. So, yeah, that's the one really key advice that I think I would have for that space.
Right. Well, how important do you think it is for an entrepreneur to be updated with the market trends?
You're absolutely right. I mean, end of the day, what is an entrepreneur? What is a business? You are solving a problem in the marketplace, right? And if you're solving a problem, like how can you solve a problem if you're not in tune with the what's happening in the market? Like, so for example, a lot of companies, a lot of banks even kind of dilly-dallied on launching digital journeys for their customers, for small businesses, for customers. You still, like, living in US, I can't still imagine you have to go to the bank and fill up an application. Many a times we would have to go and sign digitally. Like, we didn't have digital signature options, right, for legal and other purposes. But you saw when the pandemic happened, and you know what, shove comes to push, people figured it out. So as an entrepreneur, and there were a lot of businesses created, right, in during that time, which means some things were not working. People saw an opportunity and jumped on it. So I absolutely stay updated with market trends. Doesn't mean you need to know it all. It does mean that you are investing time in your learning. You're investing time in learning, with your customers, and it also means you're giving back to the community, because sometimes there are people that are starting early, and there are people who we can all benefit from that information exchange from SMEs.
Right. Well, from your bag of experiences, with working with different giant companies, what instance would you like to share with us today?
That's a great question, Elena. With when you're starting in your career early, right? Sometimes you're working for that big brand, and you kind of go, only if I got there, only if I get that job, or over the years, only if I get that change, or my life would be different, right? And having the wisdom of last 20 years, those have been great for me. Like, I've made great connections. I've had good leaders who've trusted me. I've had good colleagues who've supported me, and I've had a lot of privilege. But you know what, a time comes, you need to realize that you are the brand, right? So the advice, the instance that I would share is, when I left some of my corporate job, even till date, a lot of the times people are enamored by the brands that I've worked. But I always say, what is my brand? My brand over the years has been really building relationships, investing in people, taking that time to help, and, also taking stance on where I feel things are not right. So I think I would, and being very clear on my values, right? So it's about how am I treating others, and also how am I treating myself. So working with those companies, I've gained a lot of the wisdom about who I am, besides gaining a lot of the career opportunities and connections.
Right. So, Kalpa, what was the most challenging aspect of becoming a consultant or a coach?
I think for me, it was really the first decision to commit and say, that's it, right? Like, there were probably a series of mini actions, decisions. It's not like never like that one thing, but if I had to pick the one thing, it was the day I said, okay, that's it. There's no looking back, right? I mean, I can take all the wisdom, and I can either try and see if it works, or I can just stay in my head and make it painful for me even 2 or 5 or 10 years later, and go, or have regrets that I didn't try. So it's that decision to commit, and committed in terms of not just sticking with the original idea, but also actually evolving with what my customers are saying, what the people that I'm talking to are telling me.
Right. So, Kalpa, lastly, what do you think this world needs the most?
You know, I love this question now. I will admit, I used to hate this question at one point, because I felt in the corporate setting, it was a very like a rigid, like there was a right answer, right? Even though people didn't admit. So right now, really, I am super inspired and pumped, and really, my vision today is more than me. It's about the community that we are living in, or the world that we are living in, where we start shifting from secrecy and shame and guilt and all of that, to a place where we are having constructive dialogue on some of the societal problems that exist and how we solve it. So in my case, I'm a victim. I shouldn't say victim. I'm a childhood sexual abuse survivor, and it took me I'm 42 now. It took me a long time to even share that with my family, right? I dream of a world in like 10 years, or hopefully, at least before I die, where or I don't have to wait that long, that where these conversations can happen, because 1 in 5 children, 1 in 5 girls and 1 in 6 boys are sexually abused before they are, they turn an adult. And a lot, which means we are living with a lot of, people who have gone through trauma, and they don't know how to engage. You lose trust, but you become successful in many different ways too. So my hope is that people are not waiting for their 40s, 50s, and 60s to share their personal trauma, and we are having these conversations, particularly coming from India. I think the problem is rampant.
Right. So, on that very informative note, we come to the end of this interview session. Thank you so much once again to Kalpa for joining us today. We truly appreciate your time. And thank you, audience. Hope you had a great time with us today.
Thank you, Nelama.